When you're in the job, you find the job. There's always different ways to do things. There's not one way. You can be wealthy, educated, and still be a human being. We make a choice of the things that we want to prioritize. You need to have something. You need to have something to show for it because you're not charismatic, you're not out there. So you must know yourself, guys. Now I know myself. I've always thought of myself as somebody behind the desk. It's like I died and went to work heaven. It was the best place to be. Some of my peers used to laugh at me and say, "You went to university to sell policies."
Welcome back.
Hello, Joshua. How are you?
I'm fantastic, and how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Wild Dialogue podcast. Today we're gonna discuss something very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable for me, but you know, if not now, then when? Yes.
So tell us, what are we discussing today?
So today we're gonna just get to. Firstly, I'm going to tell you why I left corporate.
Okay.
The real story of why I left. But before I get into that, I think it's important to give some background about me and where it all started.
Yeah, where did it start?
Newly graduate from University of the Free State. I was a BCom accounting graduate. I came to Johannesburg to look for employment just like everybody else. And my journey in looking for a job was very weird. I don't know if everybody actually, did the same thing.
Sure.
But I remember coming to Joburg, I got done the previous year, 2011, December, packed up my bags and put everything in storage. Went home in January, and then I realized I'm not going to be sitting at home,
Okay.
Then I went to my sister's house, stayed with her for a while, for like a few weeks. Then I decided, let me come to Joburg, start looking for employment. So I started applying, and I was on PNet at the time, PNet, Gumtree, when we used to apply on those platforms.
Sure.
PNet, Gumtree, I used to apply. I used to, I think, send out about 30 applications for every single job I could find that was in the accounting field. And I would go to interviews. So the month of February, I went to 20 interviews. 20. I still have it in my diary.
Sure.
Because I noted every interview down because what would happen is I lived with my brother and his wife, and every morning I would drop off my brother's wife at the Gautrain station. I would take the car, drive around Joburg to interviews. And I remember that's how I also got to know Joburg, by driving around to all these interviews in different spaces, different places, and how my brother drew a map for me back in the day. In 2012, he showed me that Joburg is round. And every time you get lost, you just come back into the circle and you'll find your way back.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I did Joburg, yes. And 20 interviews later, nobody was hiring me. Nobody. 20 interview.
Nice.
Now, my 20th interview was in Kempton Park. It was for a tax consulting role. Now, I've interviewed 20 times now. I'm smooth in answering the questions. The questions are the same.
Sure.
They are those Google questions and answers.
Yeah.
And it went so well. I'm sitting there and, with the manager and things are, and I'm thinking, okay, so when am I going to get my feedback? And the manager's like, let me tell you the truth. I'm not going to hire you. Right there.
Sure.
And I was like, hey, but why? He's like, because I wouldn't be doing you any justice. I wouldn't, because the job that I'm hiring or I'm looking for to replace is a behind the desk type of job. And to me, you don't look like the behind the desk type of person. I said, no, but I need this job. And he's like, no, I'll be doing you an injustice. You need to go out there and sell something. And I've never seen myself as a salesperson.
So he was encouraging you to do business, or?
He was encouraging me to go and find a role that is client-facing.
Oh, okay.
And not a job behind the desk.
Okay.
Because I've always thought of myself as somebody behind the desk.
Yeah, yeah.
And this guy's like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to hire you. And I'm giving you proper feedback. Don't even wait for feedback. And I think that was the most honest thing a hiring manager's ever told me. But I wasn't shattered. I was like, okay, that's interesting. Then I went back home, went back to the drawing board and started looking for sales jobs. And then I came across the Old Mutual Graduate Financial Advisor Program. Applied for it. They were the only job that then replied, I think after 3-4 days later. They called me in for an interview and I got the job. That's how I came into financial planning. So immediately after varsity, a month in, I got my first job.
Sure.
Then in April of that month, because I got the job in March to start 1st of April, in March I was graduating. So I went to graduation with an offer letter. But I think what I want to maybe, highlight about that experience was I studied a BCom accounting degree to become an accountant. And in that month, because I'm a little bit impatient, I did not wait for months on end to be out of varsity and have a gap too long because I wanted something and it was not coming.
Sure.
So then I pivoted. Somebody told me, go into sales. I didn't say, no, that's beneath me. I did a BCom accounting degree. And that way, then I stuck with it because I was not getting the job. I went to 20 interviews. It means my resume was good. My CV was good. However, probably I didn't interview well with some of the first ones. And in most cases, they wanted experience. And I didn't have that experience. So, then I decided, let me try something because somebody gave me advice. So I followed that advice and I ended up with a job a few weeks later, right?
Yeah.
Then from there, I worked as a financial advisor. That's how I came into the financial planning space. I became a financial planner for Old Mutual.
Okay.
And I remember some of my peers used to laugh at me and say, you went to university to sell policies.
Sure.
Because people will find ways to talk about anything. But then I had a job, I had a salary, I had a car, I had a place to stay. And in my mind, I wasn't even, thinking about those things, but people were, whoo!
And you were earning good money, eh?
I was earning good money. And people were like, yeah, you went all the way to Bloemfontein to come back and sell policies. Hey, people.
Why didn't you speak back, man? Like, why didn't you talk
because
back?
I knew that most of them are sitting at home. And I didn't want to sit at home. And there's always different ways to do things. There's not one way to get to where you want to go. And for me, I didn't want to sit at home. I really did not want to do that.
Okay.
So I said, for me to get to where I want, let me be in the job market. Maybe while I'm mingling with my colleagues, I'll find my accounting job.
Yeah.
Which I never did because then I never wanted to go back. Right? So from there, I worked for Old Mutual. I then left Old Mutual about 9 months later because I found another job. Like I said, when you're in the job, you find the job.
Okay.
So I found the next job. I met this guy. He ran a brokerage. That's where my dream of a brokerage came alive.
Yeah.
And I worked for this guy. It was good. But the manager, the guy was fine. The manager that used to manage me, oh my God, she was horrible, that lady. That was my first bad experience of a manager in the corporate space.
Okay.
And nobody prepared me for that. That you're going to, at Old Mutual, I had a very good manager. Very nice guy. We worked very well together. Even when I left, he said, use me as a reference. When your manager says, use me as a reference, tell me where you're going, I'm excited for you. And we kept in touch for many years to come. Now I come here And I'm getting a shock of my life to say, what kind of manager is this?
Sure.
She was horrible, horrible, horrible. She was always outside smoking. And she never worked. Pushed the blame on everybody, shouted at people. And I was like, ay, man, this cannot be life. You know?
Yeah.
And she would always pass the blame on to us as the staff. She was our manager, but when the big boss came in, how does this? And, you know, I had a little bit of an attitude. I was like, no, you know, I would stand up for myself. Whereas the other people that had been employed longer knew that they had to be quiet and take it. Yeah. But I wasn't long enough in the job market to know that actually I need to shut my mouth and not talk back. And I remember it didn't end very well because she was a bully. And I was like, no, man, there's absolutely no way that you can work in an environment like this. You know, then I started, okay, let me look for another job. And then I got my dream job.
Okay.
Yes, I applied for a job. They say you get a job in the job. And it's true.
Okay.
About 6 months later, I get a job at a company called Citadel. It's a wealth management company. Oh, I used to tell people around me, it's like I died and went to work heaven. It was the best place to be.
Why?
Real wealth. It was real wealth there. Real clients with high ultra net, clients that you don't even know exist are there. That was where the love for financial planning was now brewing inside of me. And I remember when I got there, when you went into their website, all the wealth managers had their profiles there. So they would say what qualifications they've studied, from which universities. Oh, I used to open that website every single day to look at people's qualifications. And I would look at those wealth managers, how they would speak in client meetings, how they carried themselves. And I was like, this thing exists. So this is proper financial planning. This is proper stuff, you know? I was just in awe every single day. It was close-knit. It was a well-kept industry secret. And let me tell you, it was the best time I've had. And 2 years in, I mean, when I got there the first year, I got an award.
Okay.
For Rising Star.
Sure.
Very shocked. Yeah. That's how much I loved being there. And what that award was, it was somebody who's showing great potential, who has, you know, shown great interest in the business since she's been there. It's voted by the executive of the business. It's not a voting award. So you get, you know, acknowledged by the leadership of the business. And so I was so interested. Then a year, after that year, I then decided to register for a postgrad in financial planning.
Okay.
And because I was always opening up those profiles of those people, I would see all of those qualifications. I remember my direct manager. That guy had qualifications from here to Timbuktu. He was well, and he was articulate, but very shy, very, you know, hardworking. I've never met somebody so hardworking and so humble. Somebody with so much wealth, so humble, very educated. I mean, he was a lawyer. He had all of these financial planning qualifications and a master's and this. And I looked up to that guy. I mean, I remember him would always come to my desk. Okay, look, you know, do you mind? Like, that's how he used to talk to me. Do you mind doing this for me? And he was so respectful. And I think he also created a blueprint of saying, wow, you can be wealthy, educated, and still be a human being. Because a lot of managers lack that. If a person is maybe very qualified, very wealthy, they become very arrogant, treat people around them badly. Oh my goodness, this man was the best manager for me thus far. And he appreciated my opinions. and he respected everybody. There was no person in that office that was not respected. And you felt his presence. He had this sense of presence, but he didn't talk much. So when he did talk, we all listened. Because he carried this thing about him, this humility that you can't describe. He's sure of himself. He's wealthy. And he was generous. When you did well, he was very generous. And I mean, the first time he gave me a bonus, I was shocked. I've never seen so much money in my life. I thought he was joking. I thought I misheard him. Until I saw it on paper and I was like, is this guy serious? Like, this bonus is way more than, like, 5 times more than my salary.
Wow.
Yeah. And let me tell you, you worked hard. He worked hard. That means the people that work for him worked just as hard, but then he rewarded you just as much.
Yeah.
And that was, for me, one person that I always, would go back to, even today, to say, this was my best manager. I mean, when I knew that this guy was really amazing was when I moved from Citadel after 3 years to the bank. I left in September. Usually bonuses of Citadel paid the following year in April. He called me and he said, oh, don't be surprised. You're going to get a portion of your bonus. I was like, what? It's like, yeah, you're going to get a portion of the bonus that you already worked for. Which employer does that? No employer does that.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah.
That's when I saw the character of that man.
Sure.
Because that shows character. Imagine 6 months in, it's just not he was
that manager.
He was that manager. And then I knew the character of that man. And throughout my career, I would still call him, contact him, update him about where my life is.
Do you still do that now?
I haven't done it in the past, I think, 2 years. Last time I spoke to him was, I think, 2 years ago.
Okay.
But I still do have his details. And yeah, I would always go back to him. I mean, that was the best manager.
What did you learn from him? Like, what is one thing that you took from him that you'd say you carry out in the way you live today?
His work ethic. He is the type of, he doesn't just talk, he shows you how to behave as a manager.
Okay.
He worked hard. I'm not saying he was a softie. He worked hard, and everybody in the office knew that this man worked very hard. And so when he expects that from you, for me, it wasn't a surprise. It was, yes, this man works hard. He comes into the office. He doesn't just give you stuff and shouts and says, do this. No, he was there doing the work, educating you at the same time, and then expecting you to perform. So there was no way that you couldn't perform because he himself was performing at the peak. Running the office and being a wealth manager, seeing clients. He was not just a manager that you see there and you're scared of him. No.
Yeah.
He was mentoring unofficially because then I followed his lead. Oh, and that man protected. He protected me.
Yeah.
It's the same way when parents say, they'll shout at you at home, but another person can't shout at your child. That was him. If people would do funny things, he would get on the phone and be like, not with my assistant, no. So, and he was very fair. He was a very fair manager. So you knew what you got with him was fair.
Okay.
When it was time to discipline, when it was time to have the harsh reality, because things don't always go smoothly, he was fair. And he always spoke with respect. He always, he was not attacking you. So you would feel that he wasn't attacking you as the person, he was attacking the problem. So you would never feel like, oh my God, I'm incompetent. I don't know what I'm doing. It was never that way. It was, what's happening here? As in, You know?
Yeah.
Did you try this? Did you try that? Okay, no, please go and try that. Okay, sort it out. Then we sort it out. But it was never a point of where you are questioning
Sure.
yourself.
Sure.
Yeah. That was that. And then when I moved over to the bank, I did my first postgrad. So I've got a BCom accounting. I've got a postgrad in financial planning.
Okay.
I have a postgrad in estate planning.
Yes.
I've got a postgrad in management, which is
Okay.
business administration.
Sure.
And now I've got a master's
Oof.
in management, specializing in digital business.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool stuff, yeah. Yeah.
So I went to the different institutions. So my first 3 degrees were from University of the Free State.
Okay.
My postgrad in business administration management is from University of Northwest.
Okay.
My master's is from Wits Business School.
When do you get the time to study?
I make the time. You make the
While
time.
working?
Yeah, while working.
While having responsibilities?
While having responsibilities.
How?
I think we make a choice of the things that we want to prioritize. I knew that I wanted to build myself, build my career, and I knew exactly what I wanted. So every year I would sit down. When people say they write down their goals for the year, I wrote down my career goals. I think I was more focused, actually, more than anything else, was building my career.
Okay.
Because I wanted to have the potential to earn a better income. And I knew that that would help me. It doesn't always help, but I knew that it will be one less thing to worry about. And if I do it while I still have the time,
Sure.
and while I'm still young, then when I'm older, I can enjoy my money. I would have studied. But also it helped me I think studying for me makes me kind of have some sense of purpose.
Okay.
It makes me have some form of direction because then I can account for my time. So I go to work, I come back and I study.
Okay.
Then I have nothing else that I'm doing.
Yeah.
That's all I did. So from 2016 until actually this year, for the past 10 years, I've studied nonstop. For the past 10 years, from 2016 until now, 2026, I've acquired all these qualifications.
So would you say it's the reason why most people don't, or it's the reason why most people get stuck when it comes to them earning the same income, is that they don't actually study further? Would you say?
So in some instances, so it depends on the industry. It depends on the profession. So in my profession, in the financial planning profession, there are people that are still earning when they don't have the qualifications. But remember, we're all not the same. Other people have something that the next person doesn't have.
Yeah.
Another person can have the charisma, that thing where they just have it naturally to just
Sure.
make money without having anything.
Sure.
Then there's us. You need to have something. You need to have something to show for it because you're not charismatic, you're not out there. So you must know yourself, guys. Now I know myself. I know what is going to work for me and what doesn't. And I'm honest about it.
Okay.
And so when I knew that, for me to get to where I want to be, these are the things that I needed to do. But what I would also do is in the different roles that I would work in, I would do a qualification for it. So while I was doing while I completed the postgrad in financial planning, I was a financial planner in the bank.
Okay.
Then I became a team leader for the same team, and I then also became a operations manager for the same team. So I worked in the same business unit with the same manager for 6 years.
Okay.
Now my experience of that manager is also a great experience.
Okay.
So I worked with this same manager from when I entered the bank for 6 years. So I worked in the bank for 9 years. And in that 6 years, I worked in the same team. So I got a promotion. So I was a consultant when I came in. Then I became a financial planner. Then I became a team leader. Then I became an ops manager in the same team. 6 years, I got promoted. Right?
Yeah.
And I worked with the same leader. And what I loved or appreciated about him, he was also very honest. He was also fair. Yes, no person is perfect. I wasn't perfect in any of this, but I appreciated the fact that he respected me. And because he came from a different business unit, he was from HR. He was a head of HR, and then he came into the financial planning space. He wanted to learn. And he was very smart because the people around him were well equipped. He did not get threatened by the people that were around him that knew financial planning. Instead, he leveraged, and that is very smart.
Yeah.
You leverage off the people around you. You don't hire people that are below you. You hire people that know more than you so that you can use those people.
Yeah.
We leveraged from his leadership. He guided us. He helped resolve issues that we didn't know how to resolve.
Sure.
When we had issues there and there, he was always calm. He was always contained. He knew how to handle himself. He wasn't impulsive. You understand? And those are characteristics that you can't buy.
Yeah.
They come with experience. So he had those. I was inexperienced as a leader at the time. I got taught by leadership by those people. By my previous managers. There were managers that, were below him that reported to him. And even those managers taught me leadership. But he was always there. And I felt that he allowed me to grow because, he put me as a financial planner 6 months into my job as a consultant.
Okay.
He promoted me to become a financial planner because he saw the vision. And he saw how hard I worked. And then he moved me into a team leader to manage the same team. That's the same manager. That's the same head. Then he even promoted me to become a ops manager. And yes, we had our differences, but I think it was always done with respect. We fought. Like any house, we fought.
Yeah.
But I think it was done with respect. I think we appreciated each other.
Yeah.
And I think in any healthy relationship, there will always be a fight because we won't always agree. Then that's not healthy.
True.
If we're always saying yes, 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 then what's the point?
Sure.
So for me, I appreciated the fact that in most cases, he was a human being first.
Okay.
The same way they always say, I always tell people, men are men first. They can be your manager, but they are men first.
Sure.
He treated us like humans first, and then the work was that. Then the work was secondary to that. And when a manager knows so much about you, knows about your life, and not like personal stuff, no, but they know about what you like, your family structure, what type of person you are, your values. They are able to lead you properly because they understand you. People lead you properly when they understand you because we're not the same. Leading you and leading me, that manager or that leader won't lead us the same.
True.
Because Josh and How are not the same people. Josh maybe would need more compassion. How would need more of a, hey, get on with the work for her to excel. But Josh might just need a little bit of a pep talk.
Sure.
Yeah. So that 6 years with that manager, the experience was really good.
Okay.
It had its ups and downs, like I said. However, I think overall, I learned there with that manager. I grew. And what I liked about him as well was the fact that we still maintained our relationship even after I moved into a different role now. Because I'd been there for 6 years. I felt like I needed change. So I went into the banking side. And even in the banking side, I got a different manager.
Okay.
Which was a different experience, very different experience. But also with this manager, how do I put it?
They were not good.
No, he was not a bad person. He was young.
Oh, okay.
He was very young, very ambitious. He had his own agendas. However, I cannot fault him. He was the type, so he had he was younger, remember. So the other managers were older, whereas he was young. He wanted to get ahead. And so he would step on people's backs to get ahead. And sometimes at the expense of the team.
Okay.
You know? However, as a person himself, I don't think he was a bad person.
Okay.
Well, at least not to me, not to my face.
Sure.
He would do things that were a little bit,
Yeah.
Yeah, and because I would question stuff. I mean, we worked for a bank.
Yeah.
You always needed to be compliant. Things needed to be above board. And so, sometimes we would clash there and there. However, he was still respectful. He still handled himself with grace, if I can put it that way. Even with conflict, people, when you can still handle yourself with grace and not diminish a person, even when you are in disagreement, that says a lot about your character. It says a lot about who you are. To say, even in conflict, even when it's heated, and it's bad, and we are like,
You don't lose composure.
you do not lose that, especially in a corporate space.
Okay.
So now, that was the experience. Now, I moved into my final role in corporate. Now, that's where things went really, really bad. Really bad. Like, really, really bad.
So we're going to share that on part 2.
I'm going to share that on part 2.
So guys, please stay tuned.
So stay tuned, because it's going to be
Really epic episode.
Yeah, it's going to be emotional because I'm still healing from it. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm going to go into depth in terms of what actually transpired, event by event. So I hope you will tune in the next episode and hear all about what broke the camel's back. Yeah.
Guys, stay tuned. See you on the next episode. Please make sure to like, share.
Share, subscribe.
Yeah.
Yes.
See you. Boom, 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 boom.
Boom, boom, boom.